Hello, community. Let's talk about something a little bit controversial. LangChain. And you know, it's not often that there's an exact moment that I know when I decide to make a new YouTube video. But this is here the moment. It was here a tweet by Max Wolf, and he said, I have a full-on problem with LangChain. I spent a month working with LangChain and have yes, bullet points. You can read it yourself. And he said, debugging a LangChain error is nearly impossible. And if you need anything outside the workflow in the documentation, it is extremely difficult to hack, even with custom agents. The documentation is missing a lot of relevant detail. And the extreme popularity of LangChain is warping the entire AI ecosystem around the workflows to the point of harming it. So whenever you harm an AI ecosystem, you know. The recent releases by Hugging Face and OpenAI recontextualize themselves around LangChain. It's just magic AI to the point of hurting development and hurting the code clarity. And he says, hey, part of the reason I'm hesitant to release this blog post is because I don't want to be that a-hole who criticizes open source software that's operating in good faith. And I was amazed. I said, interesting, what is going on with LangChain? And it took just exactly 2 days, and I got this here in my Twitter feed from a user said, oh great, another a-hole who criticizes open source software that's operating in good faith. And then the insight. LangChain indeed. So you see, there is a non-performance by LangChain. Even the heavily critics notice there is something with LangChain. So what is it? And what is this social pressure that we are not allowed to talk about some open source project? Suddenly we cannot criticize this. We cannot be helpful in further developing the system. What is this social pressure? So, hey, well, why we have a woman, by the way, to indicate social pressure? Hey, GPT, find me another picture. GPT, this is again a woman. Another picture. Hey, come on, you want to tell me that we only have women here? When we depict social pressure and man? Okay, man, I mean, a real man does not feel social pressure. He exerts social pressure. Another one. Okay, I can learn, no problem. So, dear community, today I am a woman. So, hey to all my haters out there in the internet. Today I'm smart, I'm fragile, I'm weak. So, come and get me. Now, GPT, now you have here the picture of my inner self. Come on, now it's too late. Sorry. Now back to the topic. So here we are. But even here, article in Towards Data Science, just 2 days ago when I record this video, you know, there's this, the documentation of LangChain is really good. However, there are not a lot of examples of some specific things. My goodness, why you don't try to say, hey, the documentation is missing. Hey, do something. Okay. Now, I read Hacker News and I think it's a very valuable source of information. And you might be a little bit offended by the word hacker, but it gives you really some deep insights into people who are so much more involved in coding than I am. So I rely quite a lot on their insights. So 4 days ago, the reason why LangChain is pointless is that it's trying to solve problems on top of technical foundation that just cannot support it. And if you want to read it, there are 176 comments in 4 days. So go to Hacker News, not to my comment here in this video. Go to Hacker News and there you can provide the community with your excellent and exquisite knowledge. But you know, this is not a phenomenon of our current times, because as you can see here, Hacker News about 70 days ago. they only discussed this, and it says it was instantly deflated here when he looked at exactly the way how it works. And the comment is, I got that itself got a lot of traction on non-coders. And I think this is the important thing of people who are not familiar with how to code Python, thinking it's doing some magic. But if you read the source, it boils down to some brittle prompts. So you see there is a hype with LangChain for non-coders, opening up here for the non-coders the beautiful world of coding, which is great in a way that we have some tools that help people learn how to code, get familiar with more complicated topics. But at the other side, there's also an imminent danger if people just trust what is built for them and are not critical, are not evaluating the solutions, and just take what they get for free. So beautiful. Yes, something other. Here. LangChain introduced too many constraints in comparison to what it provides. The built-in agents are close to useless for anything but for toy projects. So you see, there's a lot of criticism. Go here. I have here the link for you, and start or continue in the discussion with your thing. Yeah, let's have a video. I asked GPT-4 to analyze what are the current drawbacks of LangChain as posted by people on the internet. So first is outdated examples. Some users complained that example provided in the documentation use outdated version of LangChain, which can lead to confusion and difficulties when trying to learn how to use it. The second point is the most important, I think. While the high level of abstraction can simplify application development, it can also make the framework more difficult to understand, especially for beginners. And I will talk about this in a second. About documentation. Now, for an open source community project, this is to be expected. The documentation has been criticized for being poorly organized and lacking clarity. This makes it more difficult for users to understand how to use LangChain and how to contribute to the open source project. And the community itself, some users have expressed dissatisfaction with the lack of community gathered on searchable forums. And I said, explain what you mean with the high level of abstraction in theory, and then provide 2 examples for deeper insight, because I wanted to understand what is this abstraction. And GPT-4 comes back and says, in programming, abstraction refers to the process of simplifying complex systems by breaking them down into more manageable parts. So high-level abstraction means that the details of the underlying implementation, the code implementations, are hidden, and users interact with the system through a simplified interface. And I think this is maybe here the main root cause why this is happening. So this allows users to focus on the problem at hand if they want to develop an app, for example, rather than getting bogged down in the details how the system works. But this is exactly the problem if the system does not work for your specific case anymore. If you have to debug, or if you have to find out this very tiny little mistake or error that is happening somewhere in the system. So, in the context of LangChain, high-level abstraction means that the framework provides a simplified interface for working with LLMs. Users do not need to understand all the details of how these models work. They can simply use the tools provided by LangChain to develop application. And this is great as long as those tools provided by LangChain work immediately out of the box. Then the world is beautiful. But what happens if there is a problem? And yeah, the 2 examples. Data awareness. One of the key features of LangChain, of course, is its ability to connect to their LLM models to other sources, external sources of data. This is indeed a complex process that involves fetching data from the source, like a database or something else, processing the data, cleaning the data, and integrating the data with the language model specifications. However, LangChain abstracts away these details, allowing users to simply specify the data source and let the framework handle the rest. And this works great until it doesn't work anymore. Chains. LangChain allows users to chain together different components to create more advanced use cases. This involves coordinating multiple components, each with its own complexity. So you can add complexity on complexity, and as long as it works, and as long as this specific code is exactly targeted on your use case, this is a fantastic development. However, LangChain provides a high-level interface for creating and managing these chains, hiding the complexities of the underlying components. And I think this is the main root cause. Hiding the complexities is great for beginners until you start to debug the system. For example, a user might create a chain that involves fetching data from a source, processing it with a language model, and then take some actions based on the model's output. Despite the complexity of this process, the users interact with it through a simple, high-level interface provided by LangChain. And now comes the part that amazes me. GPT-4 says, this example illustrates how LangChain uses high-level abstraction to simplify the process of developing applications with LLMs or for LLMs. But by hiding the complexities of the underlying system, if users do not understand what is happening under the hood of LangChain, LangChain allows users to focus on what they want to achieve rather than how to achieve it. So everything is fine if the car starts in the morning. But what you do when it's a rainy morning, you enter the car, you want to start the car, and the car does not work. So, do you understand how to achieve your goal if you have to start debugging LangChain? Can you expect this from an open source model? Let's talk about this. So today I found here in my Twitter feed another tweet. And I think it's very interesting. So let me have here a look. So it's about LangChain and the problems I see with it currently and how I think it could improve. So we have here, user says, hey, I'm working with this. I have some ideas how to make it even better. So they say heavy use, multiple layers of abstraction make it really hard to tell what is going on under the covers, to debug or to modify the code slightly. This is the biggest thing I've seen people struggle with. Struggling with myself. It is just not clear what exactly is going on a lot of the time. And this cannot be it if you have here a coding system that you do not know what's going on. For example, the yes, you can read it yourself, great. Second point, most of the connectors to external servers are half-baked. But this is evident. Listen, those are people who spend their free time helping other people to code. So those professional coders who are so grateful and they donate their time here to build these systems, of course, the code is not absolutely ready. It's not absolutely 100% validated. Has not an absolute perfect documentation. Those are people who want to give you the tools so that you are able to understand, to learn, and you go on from those steps. But I think the misinterpretation is that this is a commercial tool, although it is open source. It is 100% operational, and people get frustrated. A lot of. Yes. But people don't necessarily realize that and they end up frustrated trying to use them. Yeah, again, hard to debug. This kind of goes back to item 1, but I want to call it out specifically when something goes wrong. It is really, really hard to find out where the issue is, mostly because of the layers of abstraction. Yes, again, yes, you know this. The docs currently have some good example on how to use out of the box. It would be nice to see some docs that discuss more advanced, some app-focused, some real-world use cases. So very clear message. And he says, hey, you guys have done more than anyone to move this ecosystem forward and have done so at breakneck speed. This necessitates a lot of experimentation and shipping as fast as possible. But I think that we now need is a more robust, a simpler version that only provides a concise, bare minimum set of tools that a dev needs to ship LLM apps. I personally would love to see a version of LangChain that is essentially just a collection of functions and structures, rather than layers of abstraction and connectors to external tools. So you see, there is now, let's look at this at the point of an innovation system. Let's do an abstract view. If you are lightning fast with code implementation, and the next code implementation, and you do not, in parallel, optimize your documentation for users how to use it, if you do not explain with tutorials, if you do not explain with a lot of examples to users different real-world use cases, there comes a point when all your lightning speed coding is not effective anymore because people can't actually apply the code for their problem. So I think a highly interesting tweet. And yeah, Mr. LangChain himself personally says, hey, this is awesome and much appreciated feedback. And you have also, hey, thanks for the feedback. We just added some use case specific documentation, as you suggest here from Lance Martin. And here, by Lance Martin, here, this picture, I think it tells you a lot about LangChain. It is rather easy. Look, you have data connectors, everything from public here to private, closed section, unstructured data, structured data, everything you have. And then you have simply a transformation, you have a vector storage with 40 integrations, 50 integration, 100 integration. And then you get some documents out, some strings, some numerical data. And this is the input to a GPT-4, to a GPT-3.5, to any LLM. And this LLM gives you an answer. So you see all that LangChain does here in this ecosystem, connect you to different sources of information, does simply a cosine similarity operation, a similarity operation in a vector space using the vector storage. Retrieve some docs, and then you have LLMs like GPT-4 that does the real work, where the real intelligence is. I will have an upcoming video where I tell you that with LLMs having almost infinite token length, and I will show you here an example of Microsoft LongNet, where they say they have a 1 billion token length for their LLM, you do not need vector storage anymore. You do not need this anymore. If you have 1 billion token length, like Microsoft claims in its latest scientific preprint, you can get rid of all the vector storage and all the vector databases and have a complete new chapter of this topic. But this would be beyond today's video. There are, I have to say, amazing people, amazing Coda Jose. Here, a tweet in reply to the first tweet I showed you. Hey there, I'm with you on all points. So I built LangChain. So he built here an own system that, knowing now here LangChain and its shortcomings, he optimizes this to a new system. And I have to say, this is the real power of open source. If you see that something is not working, if you are missing something, and you understand what the current system is, you build a better system. This is amazing. Congratulations. I'm just trying to get familiar with LangChain. There is a GitHub. I can recommend it. I just had a look at it today, so I'm really at the very beginning. LangChain is a light alternative to LangChain for building LLM applications. And instead of having a massive amount of features and classes, LangChain focuses on having a single small core, easy to learn, easy to adapt, well documented, fully typed, and truly composable. How you do it? Pip install LangChain. Let me show you in a video. So let's see here. Short Jupyter notebook. pip install LangChain. This is all there is to it. And then you just have your OpenAI chain. Yes, LangChain installs, beautiful. And then you have just your OpenAI chat chain, and you can build here your emoji chain, for example. And the funny thing is, you can then define a translator chain, and you get it, you connect the two chains together, the emoji chain and then the translator chain, and so you have it. What is really nice about this is what I like to show you is the documentation. LangChain is a lighter alternative to LangChain for building LLMs. Yes, getting started. As I just showed you, you have to have your OpenAI key, of course. And then they have a lot of examples and whatever. And they explain to you the basics, why we need here streams, async, working with streams, composing here the chains, the different chains. With LLMs, they explain you even the now function calling functionality of OpenAI API. You can add some memory to it in a very simple text completion memory. So you have here all options and a really interesting documentation. Why not give this a try? But there's also another alternative. You remember with the tweet at the very first page of this YouTube video? Now this author also, Max Wolf, set out to do his own system, and he called it Simple AI Chat. And he says, yeah, I built this Python package for easy interfacing with chat apps like ChatGPT, GPT-4, with robust features and minimal code complexities. And he goes on and explains this, so I leave you here the GitHub. Great. He also explains why he did this after working here for a long time with LangChain. He thought it's time for a more simple implementation that is easier to maintain and resulted in a better generation here for prompts for the LLM. So also reading Hacker News. If you don't know them, I think they are really an interesting source of information. So another system that substitutes, augments LangChain. So if you're a beginner and you think LangChain is the one and only thing in the universe, hey, time to learn. So let's come up to a summary. I think what is really interesting is there's a great open source effort by LangChain, by alternative system to LangChain. And I think we, as users of Python libraries and on, we have maybe to check our expectation mindset. And you say, hey, what if LangChain is developed so fast, which is great, that maybe the documentation is suffering? And I notice for myself, if I code for myself here on open source and not a client work, I am not perfect in my personal documentation if I document my code. What if LangChain is developed so fast that the validation of the code sequences is not perfect? You just say, is it working? Yes, no, continue, next topic. What if LangChain is coded by professionals who are great, but given their limited time, and they have maybe a job and they have maybe a family that they have to care for? What if those professionals did not cover every possible use case that you as a user might encounter? So you have to prepare yourself. It is not a complete perfect system. What if LangChain is there to show you one possible solution? But you have to code your own use case. You have to find your own intelligent solution, given your personal ecosystem, given your company ecosystem. Imagine you have to optimize this interface functionality with your own Python coding. But you have a path, you have a guiding system, which is great in itself. I have a video on GPT-4 Code Interpreter, and I think it is interesting to compare those two systems. And you can say, hey, what if LangChain could learn from GPT-4 Code Interpreter by OpenAI that goes step by step with clear, precise explanations generates the Python code for you, shows you the code, explains the code to you in detail, and if the code is not working, provides an alternative code solution to you. If you think this is impossible, have a look at my video where I show you Code Interpreter. Because this particular way of finding a solution enables you to learn and to advance your knowledge. And I can tell you, I had a look at both systems, and Code Interpreter is a really nice implementation to understand how to formulate a solution given a complex system, understanding how to code it efficiently, and of course, we all learn continuously. So there you have it now. Coming back now to my title. How can we improve an open source project like LangChain? Are we not allowed to critique an open source project because we are simply afraid if we critique it that people will get demotivated and stop providing us with free code? Should we really escalate the system to a point where we cannot use this open source code anymore because we do not understand it, we have a level of abstraction we are not able to cope with, and there's a missing documentation? Now, looking at it from the point of an innovation theory, it is interesting because it is suffering here, the open source ecosystem, exactly from the points that a commercial entity would focus on, because a commercial entity would understand that those points are essential for revenue generation. You have a professional support, and a commercial entity would establish a dedicated support team to assist users with their issue, from simple queries to providing some in-depth technical assistance. Now, you cannot ask this from an open source community. Maybe you can have a platform, but you cannot have that you can call a number and you get a solution for your company problem. Now, for the maintenance of code, a commercial company understands that the maintenance of code is essential for each and every user that pays for that. So it could employ a team of developers to maintain and improve their code base, fixing bugs, optimize performance, implementing new features. But at the same point, and this is point number 3, have the perfect documentation, training materials for user to learn how to use the software and get out most of it for their job. You could promote the software to a wider audience, increase its visibility, attract more users to your libraries. You could reach out to potential partners, to sponsors, secure additional resources for the project. Significant point is quality assurance. If you read Reddit or go to Hacker News, the quality that your code has to provide is essential. If people just use it, as it was noticed, just for toy project, and the code breaks apart if you use it for a serious commercial undertaking, for building a specific app based on an LLM. If users get frustrated because it's not working, quality assurance is for any commercial entity a point where they focus their resources on. But you cannot ask an open source community to focus on quality assurance in the same way a commercial entity would. Or can you? What do you think about this? And finally, financial stability. You have to have the financial resources to get the personal resources, to get the professionals on board that take care about all the points we just had a look at in this sheet. You need to have really the resources that needs to continue develop this, improve the software, make it accessible for everybody, and not just jump ahead with code development and users cannot apply the code because they do not understand what's going on. They cannot debug it. They don't understand what's going on. This level of abstraction actually hinders the further development of this open source community. So there's a lot to learn from this. And I think we should be allowed to talk about possible ways how to further optimize here open source in our community. If commercial involvement shows us how things could be done, I don't say that we should do it in that way, but we should learn from this. We should learn what is missing. It would be highly interesting here from innovation theory standpoint. How would an open source community evolve to take care about these topics and not become a commercial entity? So you see, there are a lot of open questions that we as a user and those participating here in the open source community of LangChain will be faced in the future. But we can address shortcomings. We can congratulate them if they do some great work. And if we want to try to keep the project open source and of value for all users, we must also respect the contribution and the rights of the community. This is an interesting question in itself. Do you want to have a vote-based decision-making? Who decides about this? Who is the boss in the open source community for this particular development? You see, a lot of interesting questions. I hope I got you a little bit interested in this topic, maybe also from a point of innovation theory and how to optimize the future open source community that we are all a part in. I say thanks for watching, thanks for listening. I hope it was a little bit interesting. And I see you in my next video.